Greetings. Today we are going to talk about the poem written by Wilfred Owen, Dulce e decorum est. Let's start. The poem portrays the brutality of war. Owen had fought in bloodiest battles in World War I. Hence, he wanted to propagate this idea, this message, that the image of war is totally horrifying. And the brutality of war overshadowed the glory of it. Owen believed that those politicians and common people who advocate the necessity of war don't experience its horrors themselves. They never see the tragic scenes in the war. Moreover, Owen tries to portray the dark image of war through his poems, to show the reality of war, to ask people to think more about patriotism. Dulce decorum est is an ironical poem. It means that the poet, Wilfred Owen, conveys the real meaning through words that have the opposite meaning. The title The title is from a Latin poet, Horrace's apothegm, Dulce et decorum est. It means sweet and fitting it is to die for one's country. For many decades, war was portrayed as a holy and glorifying issue in the English poems. But Owen portrays the terrifying picture of war, believing that there is no beauty in dying with a gas attack. There is no, glory when soldiers are marching bootless like old beggars. Owen challenged the idea of patriotism by showing us the violence in the war. He claims that patriotism is, senseless, meaningless. Moreover, he doesn't tell us the name of the country for which the poor soldiers are dying. So we can conclude that this poem conveys a universal message. Well, let's start reading the poem. Dulce et decorum est. Bent double like old beggars under sacks. Knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge, till on the haunting flares we turned our backs, and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Well, at first glance, the readers may think that the poem is going to describe, the sweetness of patriotism and dying for one's country, as the title suggests. However, in the first 4 lines, the poet shows us the grotesque image of war. As you see, the soldiers are not gorgeous and magnificent, rather they are bent double, either under the weight of their stuff or under the weight of their duty. The poet makes a comparison between the soldiers and the old beggars and also the hags, and we call this figure of speech simile. Through this simile, the poet tries to show us the harrowing situation of the war. Using the word hags suggests the presence of witches, or in other words, the presence of devil. We cursed through sludge. Pay attention to this line. The speaker uses the pronoun we to tell us that he is one of the soldiers. It gives us a sense of authenticity, that whatever he describes is real and true. Moreover, he maintains that war is not as heroic as it is described in the epic poems. Rather, it is real and threatening. Men marched asleep, Many had lost their boots, but limped on, bloodshot. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of tired, outstripped 5-9s that dropped behind. The speaker describes the horror and danger of the war. Well, the speaker uses a metaphor to show us the suffering of the soldiers. The soldiers are bloodshot. Shod, it means wearing shoes. Now you can imagine the scene. These bent double soldiers who are exhausted, wounded, and frightened are turning back from the front line to reach their camp in order to find well-deserved rest. But they had lost their boots in the battle. They walked a long distance, their feet bleeded heavily. As a result, there was a thick layer of blood over their feet, as if they wore shoes made up of blood. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue. There is a sort of hyperbole or exaggeration in these phrases. In addition, note the word lame. We usually use the word lame for animals, not for human beings. Well, you may note that from the very outset of the poem, Wilfred Owen reduces these soldiers to some miserable or undignified creatures. As you may know, the army or the soldiers were always described as some young, strong, indomitable, and dauntless men in previous decades. But Wilfred Owen challenged this idea. He reduces the soldiers to the old beggars, witches, and finally animals. The troops are drunk with fatigue. This is an ironic statement. People usually get drunk when they drink something sweet and pleasant, but here they are drunk with fatigue. Another interesting point here is the 5-9s, the artilleries. Let me say the bombs. The bombs are tired. How is it possible? Maybe Wilfred Owen wants to tell us that even the 5-9s are tired by the merciless nature of the war. This section, all in all, presents a very doleful, a very sad image of the soldiers and the battle. The next section, the next part. Gas, gas, quick boys, an ecstasy of fumbling, feeding the clumsy helmets just in time. But someone still was yelling out and stumbling. Well, although these tired and wounded soldiers are out of the range of the 5-9s, the bombs, they are not safe. The deadly threat is posed by the gas attack. Obviously, the clumsy helmets are their gas masks that they have to put on in order to prevent breathing the poison gas. Ecstasy of fumbling. Again, Wilfred Owen uses an irony. Ecstasy means a feeling of extreme happiness. Surely the soldiers were not exultant, they were not happy for the gas attack. To be more precise, they experienced a state in which their mind stops working properly, so they put on their masks awkwardly. These soldiers know that they are in imminent danger of dying if they cannot put on the masks in time. Maybe ecstasy refers to the shocking state that they experienced before death. And floundering like a man in fire or lime, dim through the misty panes and thick green light, as under a green sea, I saw him drowning. In World War the One, both the British armies and the German troops used mustard gas. To be exact, as soon as the person breathes in the poison gas, their lungs start burning. It seems that one of these soldiers, as Owen puts it, didn't put on the mask in time, and he is yelling and crying out in pain. He is floundering, he is staggering towards his comrades as if he is burning. Through the misty panes. Through the misty panes. Panes. Pane. It means the glass, a piece of glass. The panes of the masks were misty, so the soldiers could not see very well. I saw him drowning. Literally speaking, the soldier cannot drown on solid ground. In fact, the poet means the soldier was drowning in his own blood, because his lungs start bleeding after he breathed in the mustard gas. Moreover, the mustard gas has a yellow or green tint, as under a green sea pictures the color of the air, it is compared to a green sea. In all my dreams before my helpless sight he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. In all my dreams, particularly, the speaker is not talking about his dreams, rather he's talking about his recurring nightmares. He cannot escape from his dream or nightmares. The nightmares of his friend who was stumbling towards him, guttering and choking. The speaker found himself helpless and hopeless, for he was not able to help his friend. Maybe the speaker has a sense of regret or guilt. Okay, the third section, the third and the last part, in fact. In this final section, the speaker addresses clearly a particular you. Later, he calls him my friend. The speaker is saying to the person he is addressing, if he has had experienced the same situation, the nightmares of this experience to see a comrade dying would smother or suffocate him. The speaker describes how they put the wounded soldier in the wagon. The speaker was pacing behind the wagon, looking at his wounded comrade in front of him. Now pay attention to the horrifying description. White eyes rising in his hanging face like a devil's sick of sin. The devil is sick of sin. That's real interesting. The devil, who is responsible for vicious deeds in the world, now is sick of this sin. This experience is too ruthless and unpleasant even for the devil. Each time the wagon jolts, the speaker hears, note the word hear, the speaker hears the blood come gargling from the lungs. As we have discussed before, this is the result of breathing the mustard gas. Bitter as the cud. Cud is the food that an animal has chewed and then brought back into its mouth. Similarly, the speaker continues bringing back the image into his mind. He cannot escape from it. Innocent tongues, another important phrase, innocent tongues. Innocent means inexperienced or novice. The speaker tries to tell us that these young men, these innocent boys, are inexperienced. They are too young to experience the ferocity of war. Zest means enthusiasm or eagerness. The speaker suggests that if you could see such harrowing scenes, your attitude towards the war and patriotism would change. The speaker is saying that if you have seen what I have seen, you would never talk about the moment of glory or the dignified nature of war fervently with your children. So you would not inculcate the apothegm said by Horrace, Dulce decorum est, in the mind of your children. The speaker tries to show us that this is a big lie. The speaker believes that if you keep spreading such a grandiloquent statement about war, the other young and innocent boys will face the similar fate.